Whether I'm exploring the great outdoors, lounging around Eagle's Nest, or invading Poland, I always make sure I'm wearing American Eagle jeans. They're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn, and they make my hinterlands look amazing. So, if you want to buy these jeans, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Unless you are Jew or a gay.
Adolf Hitler has great genes. Genes. Get it?
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps.
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media.
Is a man also not sleeping?
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. But we don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation on the D.C. crime crackdown. Emily Sturge from Campus Reform talking educational freedom. Oliver McPherson Smith and the energy crisis that is. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee, Al Berry and Nick Peterson. And back in the spotlight, it's Michael W. Smith. And now from Times Square, where Washington, D.C.'s crime wave is making Gotham look like a gated community, here's the cover!
Happy weekend to you. Kevin McCullough, thrilled to be back with you. For those of you paying careful attention, I was away for a couple of weeks. Took the family on the trip of a lifetime. We have planned for 2.5 years to take this trip and saved and budgeted and scrimped and scraped and did all the stuff that we had to do it, and it was worth every ounce of all that preparation. There is nothing like getting your kids on a boat on the seas outside of Capri and the Amalfi Coast, and walking them through the historical perspective of Rome, going to the Vatican. We don't happen to be Catholic, but still the church history and the rich art and everything else that's there. It was just an amazing trip. But glad to be back. Missed being here, and very much want to make sure that we are primed and fighting when Labor Day rolls around and we really launch into the fall, because there's so much to get done. I want to start out real quickly by also just saying this. We are running just a little bit behind on the year if we're going to get all of the slaves liberated that we have hoped to liberate, and I need your help. 888-342-1010. If you have not participated with us this year, we still have about 148 to go of the 208 that we were aiming to help. We have about 148 to go. So very thankful for the 60 women that we've liberated, and their lives will be forever changed, and it's been worth it for those women for sure. But I don't want to leave the other 148 behind. So if you have not yet done that, please help us. You can go to bringherhome.org, or you can dial 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010. More on that coming up. All right. Last Monday, it's been a really bizarre week when you think about it in terms of domestic politics, because last Monday the president comes out. First of all, I'm coming back on the airplane, a week ago Friday, and I'm looking at these headlines, and I get the White House press mail that they do every day, and so I see what the agenda is and what they're going to be talking about and where the president's going to be. I get all that stuff sent to me, and so I'm seeing that the president is really pointing to Monday as this big announcement in Washington, D.C. And then he goes on Truth Social and he posts it and he talks about it, and he's, come Monday we're gonna take Washington, D.C. back. And so Monday comes and the big announcement gets made. He's standing there with Bondi and Hegseth, and he's got all the Pirro. He's got all the players that are necessary to basically whip Washington, D.C. into shape. to say enough with the crime, enough with all the fear and the anger and the danger and the disaster. We're done with this. We're going to fix this place. And within just minutes of him making that statement, of course, you have every Democrat coming to the camera long-faced. Oh, the president's overstepping his boundaries. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's taking powers he doesn't have the right to have. None of which was true, by the way. Not one of the criticisms that people made about the president on Monday had any basis in truth. Washington, D.C. is a federal area, and the president has absolute control over it. He can fire the mayor. He can fire the police department. He can do everything he wants to because he's in charge of the safety of federal districts and federal areas. He, as the head of law enforcement in the country, has the absolute say, which a certain police chief had to find out later in the week because she's a mess and she didn't know what she was doing. And so Pam Bondi actually had to say to her, sorry, your services will not any longer be needed. But you have the entire left melting down. I can't believe he's taking these powers. How dare he? Blah, blah. And then they try to support it with facts. Well, it's a 30-year crime low. It's a why do you need? It's like the guy from Christmas Story. It's a special sale. No, it's not. There is no 30-year crime low because your people have been cooking the books. And they were cooking the books to make elected leaders look better when elected leaders didn't really have any reason to look better. And so on Tuesday, the teams roll in. Night number 1 gets underway. And on the first night, 23 arrests, a dozen weapons off the street, fentanyl found. Just within one night, you already had Washington being made safer as it went along. And it was absolutely not going to be that way if President Trump had not done this. If President Trump had not stepped into the scenario and said, we're actually going to make this city a safe place again, it would still be just as dangerous. That was night 1. That was just night 1. Then you had night 2 roll around, and the data comes out a day later, and they reveal 100 more arrests, more weapons off the street, more drugs seized, more of the everything that was making life terrible in Washington. And you know what's not being done? Nobody's being all the accusations. Oh, he's going to militarize and he's going to harass innocent people. You know what you have to do to justify what those critics were trying to say about the president. And this is not. I'm not understating it. For all of them to come to the camera and say we don't want the president to do this means that they actually wanted the people of Washington, D.C. to continue to be victimized into the future. And sadly, every president that has faced a violent Washington, D.C. in the last many years and has never done anything about it has contributed to that problem as well. How badly do you have to hate the residents of a city to see them suffer with crime rates of over 200% compared to other cities in the country? They have more violent crime in Washington, D.C. than New York City has. New York City has an incredible police department. Washington, D.C. is trying to do the job with 3,200 people because when they went through the defund the police thing, they canned 800 officers. You wonder where the 800 number came up, that President Trump said we're going to send you 800 people to help? That's it. They defunded their police by 800 positions. And what happened? In an already violently criminal city, things got worse. So the president steps into it, addresses it, gives them the resources. The union, the police union, comes out and says, thank you, President Trump, for doing this. The data starts coming in. Night 1, night 2, night 3. By the end of the week, you have nearly 1,000 people that are dangerous removed from the street. You have guns that are prolific being taken off the street. You have dangerous fentanyl that could kill millions of people taken off the street. And in the midst of all of this, you displace the police commissioner because she's a complete imbecile. And in the midst of all this, what does the mayor of Washington, D.C. do? Oh, yeah. Let me check my calendar here. I'm going to Martha's Vineyard. Peace, y'all. That's what they had happen. Thank you, President Trump. I've gone to Washington, D.C. 2 or 3 times a year for work for the last 10 years. Always felt dangerous. It doesn't feel dangerous anymore. And it's going to keep feeling better as this month goes on. Kevin McCullough, huge show straight ahead, including new music from Michael W. Smith.
McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for everything, including if you want to register for your chance to win a trip to New York City. Come see the show, come meet me, hang out. I'll buy you dinner, show you the studios. It'll be a lot of fun. Go to thatkevinshow.com, click the promotions tab, and sign up for your chance to win. And you can enter every day between now and the end of August. So I would encourage you to do that. Zach Smith is back with us. He's a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. And Zach, your expertise is in great demand these days. So thank you for spending some time with us. This week, the president said, I'm going to invoke the constitutionality of the president taking over a federal territory. Washington, D.C. is a federal territory, and he said, we're going to straighten out this crime issue once and for all. The reaction to me, a little astounding in that I can't imagine anybody that really genuinely cares about people would have a problem with this. And then I see like the police union comes out and supports him, and they said, yeah, we know it's a mess. We need help. Please help us. And yet people are still criticizing him for it. What am I missing here?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think you're missing anything. And I applaud the president for taking these actions. And I think to understand exactly why the president can step in and take these actions and should take these actions, we have to understand DC's unique status. It's the capital city of our nation. The framers of our Constitution always envisioned that at the end of the day, the federal government would have the final say over the safety and security of what happens in our nation's federal capital city. And so, unfortunately, for too many years, really since the 1970s, whenever the D.C. Home Rule Act was enacted, local officials have not appropriately done their duty. They've not taken steps to make sure that police officers are adequately funded and supportive. Local prosecutors have not taken actions to aggressively prosecute violent crimes. And unfortunately, we've seen the result of that with the crime crisis that D.C. Has been experiencing for so many years now. So I say kudos to President Trump and his team for taking these much needed actions.
Well, I think that you have to really hate people that have been victimized by violent crime to continue to say to them, no, everything's fine. You can live in a 200+% crime increase every year without, complaining. And of course, we know that none of them would ever choose to live there. The ones that are out criticizing him for this, the Dana Bashes of the world, who only seem to see violence in D.C. if it pertains to January 6th or something else. But here's the other slice of this that I think is hard for people to understand, and that is that when we're talking about trying to eliminate violent crime, if what you're doing isn't a holistic approach, then you're not going to be successful. And that's why Jeanine Pirro was there. That's why the Department of Defense was there. That's why the DOJ was there, because you have to have, as you pointed out, prosecutions that follow up on the incarcerations of the people that are doing all this. And if I'm reading the front page of Fox News one day, as I did this morning, and I see that a city councilman is exchanging envelopes of cash on secret cameras to people in the district, it seems to me that idea of a safe city for the federal government to operate in might be a little bit of a pipe dream right now.
Well, unfortunately, it is. And I laugh because it's so ridiculous in some sense, but it's very serious in the consequences that we've seen. Keep in mind, we had a member of Congress several years ago get assaulted in the elevator of her own apartment building in Washington, D.C. We had a sitting member of Congress get carjacked. We've had multiple congressional staff be attacked. One was brutally stabbed. We had a congressional intern, sadly, get shot and killed on his way to the metro in downtown D.C. Just very recently. And so there are ample stories about everyone who's been affected by the crime crisis. Now, if you listen to local officials, if you listen to many on the left, they will tout that apparently D.C. is experiencing a 30-year low in the number of violent crimes in the district. Well, I looked. Where did that number come from? Where did that statistic come from? It came from a press release that the Biden Justice Department released in January of this year, January 2025, shortly before they left office. And unfortunately, there are very real reasons to question the validity of the crime data that has been reported in D.C. There's an investigation ongoing right now about whether some of that data was accurately reported. And then there's the larger issue of crime not being reported, and then of prosecutors, particularly under the Biden DOJ in D.C., working to downgrade violent crimes to nonviolent crimes so that it won't be reflected.
That's how the left plays that game, because they say if I call something else that's not a crime, or if I don't call crime, then crime is going down. In reality, the violent actions, the violation of sovereignty, the violation of agency, all these things that occur in highly violent, victimizing crime areas continue to occur. And you mentioned the people that may have cooked the books. It appears as though more than one person may have been in on that. There's official actions being considered against people that have been overtly connected to misrepresenting some of the numbers. So I think it's pretty telling. You know, I don't spend a lot of time in D.C. I'm there maybe 2 to 5 times a year on a really heavy year. I did for a short while commute from New York to Washington for a job that I had for a season of life. I never felt safe in that city. If you're not around the monuments and if you're not in the middle of broad daylight, it does not feel like a safe place, particularly outside that immediate area. I think anybody like a Dana Bash or elected leaders that sit there and try to say straight face to the camera that it's, safer than, another big city. I mean, I live in New York. We know what violent crime is here. We're a much safer city than Washington, D.C. is, as is like evidently Bogota, Colombia. I mean, you can't get over what a stretch it is for the Democrats to come straight face to the camera and say, no, that what he's doing is wrong. What he's doing is trying to save people who have been violently violated through criminal activity in what should be our safest city.
Right. That's absolutely right. And it really stood out to me at the press conference yesterday how many members of the Washington, D.C. press corps had personal experiences with being victims of violent crimes or friends and family members who had been victims. Now, one of the other things that stood out to me at yesterday's press conference, if you listen to Jean Pirro Judge Jeanine talking at the podium there, she mentioned juvenile crime. Unfortunately, juvenile violent crime really has plagued Washington, D.C. for many years. And part of the reason juvenile crime has plagued Washington is because the locally elected D.C. Attorney General has primary authority for prosecuting juveniles who commit crimes. Now, the D.C. Attorney General, his name is Brian Schwab, he's a very left-leaning politician. He said that he'll never prosecute a juvenile as an adult, no matter how violent their crime, no matter how close to 18 they are, and that in his view, we cannot, quote, prosecute our way out of this crime crisis. Well, guess what? The gangs, juvenile offenders, they receive the message. And so as a result, you have the majority of carjackings today in Washington, D.C. being committed by juvenile offenders.
Yeah, guess what? Word's out. There's a trick. And if you do the trick, then you don't get caught or you don't serve as much time. Zach Smith of the Heritage Foundation, thanks for all your great work there.
Well, thanks so much for having me on.
Kevin McCullough coming right back from New York. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of
Welcome back to Times Square. It's that Kevin Show. Kevin McCullough. Yes, I am back from my Italian adventure. More details on that. Plus a free ebook if you want to see some of where we went. We put together an entire beautiful layout. We'll send it to you. I'll tell you more about that coming up. But first, Emily Sturge is back with us. She's with Campus Reform, and they keep their eyes on all things going on as it relates to educational freedom in the country. And Emily, you've been on the show now several times, and I always look forward to having you back. But it doesn't seem like some states and some schools and some colleges are getting the message. What's going on?
You know what? We are seeing the left continue to prioritize illegal immigrants in the education system, but this administration is putting an end to it. It's very exciting to see. And just recently, we've seen the Department of Justice launch investigations into 4 different states for providing in-state tuition policies for illegal immigrant students, essentially giving them a discounted rate while American students have to pay the full price. We've seen 2 success stories so far in Texas and just recently, just within the past couple of days, over in Oklahoma. We've seen those states overturn their policies that were allowing illegal immigrant students to access those discounted rates. So it's been great to see this administration put American students first. American students should be rejoicing.
Well, and I want people to understand President Trump. This is the part that I think people play dishonest with, Emily. It'll take me a second to walk this back, but I want you to get your response to it. This week, he makes the announcement that he's going to clean up crime in Washington, D.C. And why does he do that? Well, the left, they melt down. They don't know how to respond to it. I think you have to literally hate the poorest of the poor around Washington, D.C., who are victimized by 200% crime rates every single year to oppose him on it. And this is what I don't understand. How can anybody look at a situation like that and say, well, of course, he shouldn't be doing that. He shouldn't be putting America's citizens' safety first. Same applies to this situation. You have kids who go through their entire educational life. They want to go to college. They've been told their entire life college is the ticket to the better life. It's the way to go. And if you make good grades, you're going to have the opportunity. And specifically state schools that provide lower tuition for kids that can't afford Ivy League or private colleges. This has truly been a ticket out of, one type of life and for their family to begin to experience something else because they apply themselves. When you have the government in conjunction with these schools, literally working against the kids that grew up here, trying their best to better themselves on all of the social messaging we've given them, it just seems like it's completely anti-American to go in that direction. And Trump is somehow the bad guy for wanting to make sure that American kids have the same chance that people who are here against the law are.
Trump is always the bad guy. You and I both know that. That's the role of the media, it seems, is to paint him as the bad guy. But you make such a fantastic point. And I want to point out the actual numbers here so it makes a little bit more sense. When you think about out-of-state tuition policies, for example, in Kentucky, out-of-state tuition is about $30,000 to $40,000 that American students have to pay, whereas in-state tuition policies are more like $10,000. And that's the price that illegal immigrant students have been able to pay in states like Kentucky. And so there's absolutely no reason why American students should have to pay 3 to 4 times the amount as illegal immigrant students. But like I mentioned before, this is just one instance. In-state tuition policies is just one instance of the left prioritizing illegal immigrants over American students. We also see scholarships and free legal services that are going to illegal immigrant students. And of course, at the end of the day, that's the American taxpayer footing the bill.
Well, and I don't think that everybody fully understands that. Walk us through a couple of examples.
Absolutely. So the Department of Education recently launched investigations into 5 different universities that had been providing these scholarships specifically to illegal immigrant students. So American students don't have access to them. As a reporter for the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, I looked into specifically one of the universities is the University of Michigan. I looked into it. I went through the records. I went through the financial documents. The University of Michigan spent $100,000 on scholarships for illegal immigrant students, covering everything from tuition, housing, food, technology, even travel. And think about that money could have gone to American students. American students aren't getting those same luxuries, those same benefits. So it's absolutely unfair. It's not just unfair, it's a violation of federal law. It's a violation of the Constitution, and it outright rejects the American rule of law and teaches the next generation of students that it's okay to reject the American rule of law.
Okay, let's take a quick break. I got a couple of follow-ups on that specific story because I really am a little bit befuddled by how the university and local authorities could be responding the way they do.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Kevin McCullough. Glad to have you with us. ThatKevinShow.com for everything related to the show. All the archives, podcasts, my column at Town Hall, the daily column, the TV show, everything's there. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for thinking logically and consistently for America's priorities in joining us here. Emily Sturge is my guest. She's with Campus Reform. She keeps her eye like a hawk on some of these issues that really the rest of the media, Emily, I mean, let's just be very candid. If you weren't covering this, it wouldn't be covered. Even in conservative media, there's not that many people doing what you do or even covering the same story. So from that standpoint, you're one in a million, and we're grateful that you're bringing this info to us. You were talking about the Michigan scenario, and you made reference to a pot of money that Michigan sets aside expressly for illegal students, illegal alien students. And you said specifically that American students are not allowed to apply or access or touch those funds. Again, I want to go back to because I feel like we live in this weird echo chambery world that never seems to stop and examine it. I want to go back to the common sense of this. How is an American university, supposedly supported by American taxpayers at the state level in the state of Michigan, on the federal level from Washington, D.C., how are they allocating dollars that discriminate against American students?
That's exactly the problem. And that is why the Department of Education, their Office for Civil Rights, has launched investigations into 5 different universities for doing this, for taking funds and only allowing them to go to illegal immigrant students, excluding American students. Now, the way universities are getting away with this, they're saying that the funds are coming from donors. They're saying since it's not state funds, then it's okay. But there are so many cases where state funds are acting, as benefits to illegal immigrant students. And I want to point over to within the California State University system. That's a huge public university system. It's made up of 23 different campuses.
The largest in the country, I think.
I believe so. And those campuses are using California's state funds in order to provide free legal services to illegal immigrant students. They call it deportation defense. Each one of those campuses has an attorney, has a paralegal, and is offering these free legal services to not just illegal immigrant students, but also their immediate family members, faculty, staff, and alumni who have graduated within the past 2 years.
Here's the big lie in all of that. They're not free. They may be free to the illegal alien that's accessing the service. They may not be being charged for it. But the property owners of California are being hosed. The people paying their sales tax at the local Ralph's, they're getting the short end of the stick. Californians and Americans are paying for that. It's not free, but it's just not free. It's just free for those that aren't supposed to be there.
Free for anyone who's breaking our laws. How backwards is that? And yeah, there's a massive price tag here. $42 million for California's taxpayers. And you know what? I'm thinking of the Californians who had their homes burned down in the wildfires. I'm thinking of the Californians who have to pay their own bills, who pay their own rent, their own electricity costs. They're also footing the bill for deportation defense for students who are here illegally and their family members. It's so backwards. I can't believe this is happening. But I'm excited to see that there is an administration taking this seriously, starting to target more of these programs. So that's why I'm exposing these programs. I'm going through the university financial records, finding them so that this administration can target and cut them.
Let's move to that end of the spectrum, the solution, because the president, he's obviously taking stands boldly in this term that I think a lot of people thought he's going to come in kind of a lame duck, one term and done kind of thing. He's taken the opposite approach. I love everything that he's done so far. The fact that Rachel Maddow doesn't know the difference between a consolidating dictatorship and a president who's keeping his campaign promises is kind of hilarious in my book, but nevertheless, that is what we have. What are the options for the administration in terms of how they are responding to these schools, and what are the potential penalties that the schools will incur?
Universities are risking their federal funding by having these policies in place that violate federal law. And the Department of Education has been very clear about that. Secretary Linda McMahon has been very clear that universities are risking losing their federal funding. They have been put on notice. They have been warned from everything to discriminatory DEI policies, men and women's sports, campus anti-Semitism, as well as this issue of illegal immigrants getting these financial incentives on America's university campuses. These universities have been warned that they are risking it, and we still see some universities continue these practices. At the end of the day, they need to comply with federal law in order to secure their funding. And we've seen some pretty big settlements from universities like Columbia with the administration. So we know when their money is put at risk, that's when they tend to act.
Well, I'm wondering if it goes further than that. Have you uncovered in your reporting actual criminal activity that people should not just be having their funding threatened, but should people be going to jail? Is there wrongdoing on a criminal scale in some of these stories?
Well, the way that I see it is that universities are incentivizing people to come here and break our laws. We will keep you updated on any additional criminal activity that we uncover. We are looking deep into this issue, I can assure you. And I think we're one of the only media outlets that are actually paying attention to these things happening on university campuses when it comes to illegal immigrant students. But I would say by incentivizing people to come here and break our law, I would say that is directly working against the American rule of law. But I'm not shocked by it. We've also seen other universities pass out guidelines to faculty, staff, and students, encouraging them to work against the federal rule of law, work against immigration authorities, work against ICE when ICE is present on campus. We've seen many universities adopt policies where they teach students, staff, and faculty to shield illegal immigrant students. So at the end of the day, of course, this is working against the American rule of law.
The American people, the American vote. The thing about I mentioned Maddow earlier. She made that statement last week in a monologue that he'd become a consolidating dictator. Everything that he's done, we voted for, and it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes. Anyway, Emily, great job. Keep us up to date on what's going on. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
You got it. Kevin McCullough coming right back from New York. Don't go away.
Ready or not, he'll be right back. That Kevin.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show. The new music spotlight returns to Michael W. Smith.
Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. You overflow my cup when you call my name. Your love is a flood and I'm lost in the waves. I'm caught up in the rush every breath I take. Oh. Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. Heaven and earth collide, open the clouds and I feel it rising. My heart is overtaken, there is a world in can trust when you say you do. My arms open wide, I'm giving you control. I wanna know how deep it is the water goes. Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. Heaven and earth colliding, open the clouds, I feel it rising. My heart is overtaken, there is a world in me awakening. You're waking up, your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain. Heaven and earth colliding, open the clouds, I feel it rising. My heart is overtaken, there is a world in me awakening. Your love is a flood and I'm dancing in the rain.
Wow, a haunting cinematic masterpiece. Mike W. Smith, Your Love is a Flood. He's back in the second hour, as will I be. Stay with us.
What's so important you couldn't wait until later? I received a word from the Israeli Defense Force that political activists are attempting to deliver humanitarian aid directly to Hamas. They truly believe the supplies will go to the thousands of starving Palestinians. Oh, come on, JD, that's gotta be fake news. Who would be dumb enough to bring supplies to terrorists? Allahu Akbar! Habibi, please. Young boy, what is your name? My name is Greta. Halalalala, Allahu Akbar! I shoot! Habibi, please, do not frighten the boy. It's okay, child. You can come out. Look, this civilian is starving and needs aid. How dare you starve? Here. All of this for a Nature Valley granola bar and a tampon? You are without a doubt the worst humanitarian I've ever heard of. But you have heard of me. Habibi, please. This boy has shown great bravery crashing his boat into the dock. Remember what Allah's prophecy said. The prophecy is not real, Elder. It's made up. No, Habibi. The prophecy is written by Allah himself. In fact, it is written that one day a chosen one will arrive demonstrating skill and bravery. This boy must be the one the prophecy foretold of. Sorry, but I'm not the chosen one. I just want to save the world. Ah, the prophecy said the chosen one would say that. You must come with us now. Elder, you would not trust this boy to be chosen by Allah. He's not even handsome. Neither Allah nor I would take him to our chambers for dirty playtime. Habibi, you must trust me. Allah made me elder because of my wisdom. Come, chosen one. No, I really need to get back. Let's just get a picture for Instagram. Little boy, we are not asking. Grab her, Habibi.
somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, Dr. Oliver McPherson Smith on the energy myths and crisis that we now face with AI. Plus sketch comedy from Al Berry, Nick Peterson, and of course the Babylon Bee. And he's back in the spotlight once again, Michael W. Smith. And now from Times Square, where Hillary Clinton nominating Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize is the plot twist no one saw coming, here's the Kevin!
For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. Dateline Washington, where the nation's capital has finally decided to try crime fighting. A concept so radical it hasn't even been attempted in years. Attorney General Pam Bondi has yanked D.C. police chief's powers from her. You know, the powers she mostly used to schedule photo ops and promote diversity trainings. Bondi also rolled back protections for Sanctuary City. Residents are reportedly confused because for years, crime crackdown in D.C. meant politely asking carjackers if they could just return the car seat. Meanwhile, Barack Obama has declared that Democrats who fled Texas to avoid a vote are inspiring. Inspiring who? That's unclear. But if disappearing for weeks while on the taxpayer dime is now considered leadership, half of Congress is ready to qualify for the Medal of Honor. Homeland Security unveiled a shiny new ice fleet, striking in the way a catamaran is striking in the desert. It's meant to boost recruitment and visibility because nothing says secure border quite like turning law enforcement into a NASCAR team. Speaking of border security, agents recently made an arrest outside a Gavin Newsom anti-Trump rally. The suspect's charges remain unconfirmed, but rumor has it the real crime was wearing a Make California Affordable Again shirt somewhere inside the city limits. Over in Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger has refused CNN's invitation to debate her Republican opponent for governor. Her campaign explained it's not that she's avoiding the debate. She just doesn't believe in giving voters too much information before an election. And on The View, a co-host urged disco legend Gloria Gaynor to decline her Kennedy Center honor because Trump exists. Gaynor reportedly responded by singing "I Will Survive" at full volume until the panel's credibility curled up into the fetal position, a position they've been in often in recent months. Science news, researchers studying people who live to 100 say they all share common habits, things like exercise, healthy diets, and apparently avoiding Twitter. Missing from the study, the fact that most centenarians have also lived 100 years without ever being represented by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. New York Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani warns that America's faith in democracy is withering if it can't deliver for the working class. Oddly, he said this moments before voting against a bill that would cut working class taxes. D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser is so committed to her city during Trump's federalized crime crackdown that she took a quick morale-boosting trip to Martha's Vineyard. Officials say she was studying other jurisdictions' crime strategies, like serving lobster rolls to wealthy donors while your city's homicide rate makes the evening news. In California, a school board president is under fire for defying Governor Newsom's directive and keeping transgender athletes out of girls' sports. Shockingly, a majority of parents agree with him, suggesting California may have pockets of sanity left, though scientists are still searching. Relationship advice now. A dating coach revealed the secret weapon for women abandoning modern relationships. The weapon? Standards. Unfortunately, many men report that they've been disarmed for years. And finally, just a touch of pop culture for you. Taylor Swift says her biggest challenge in the last few years was convincing Jason Kelsey's daughters that they were not cat people. Actually, she was just trying to convince them that cats weren't poisonous. Which is odd because convincing America that she shouldn't be running for president in 2028 seems like a much bigger challenge to most of America. In summary, the Capitol is fighting crime, Obama's praising fugitives, ICE is going full NASCAR, a mayor's on vacation while her city burns, and The View still hasn't found a mirror big enough to reflect on its own ignorance. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
The suspect. Guy next door, though, looks like a prime target. That is profiling. No, it's selectively observing patterns in skin tone, in face tattoos. I do see a kid in the house, though. Appears to be about 4. You think he's running the drug operation?
He's got to be at least 6 to even work the weed farms.
How many donuts you gonna eat?
Never let a stereotype go to waste.
Hit me with the suspect's deets. Well, says here he's a loving father, small business owner, farmer, backbone of the country. Wait, sorry, that was a CNN article. Here we go. 14 arrests. Drug trafficking, kidnapping, assault, rape. Why does the left support these people again?
Are you looking for a more professional answer than stupidity?
Where were those people when Obama deported 3 million?
They came down with political amnesia.
This guy's got better health care than I do. Probably a good thing, though. It says here he's in bed with multiple sclerosis 13. I don't think that stands for MS 13. Never mind.
You know you got the most dangerous job when you got to deal with those monsters.
Well, statistically, the most dangerous job is being Obama's chef. Almost everybody dies. How come every street in Blue Cities looks like the entrance to the United Nations?
Makes them feel like they're making a difference without actually doing anything.
Like giving a homeless person a high five.
Virtue signaling is expensive. It's cheaper to love America. You only got to buy one flag.
He was given a free smartphone, too? Other countries throw you in prison for breaking the law. We give you an unlimited data plan.
I have 2 years till mine is paid off. I have cell phone debt.
Those are just to keep in touch with their case managers and schedule immigration court hearings. Where is this guy?
You should have just gone to Home Depot. You can get them in bulk there.
See, I don't love going after those putting in effort. Makes us look like Homeland Insecurity.
We're arresting a violent criminal. We're not calling in a drone strike on a fruit vendor.
If we didn't have open borders for 4 years, we wouldn't have to do this. How do we get the world to see the reality of what we're facing?
Send in Coldplay.
Well, one thing's for certain, we'll have this guy before we have the Epstein files. We won't have him if he doesn't come out.
Or if he sits on Pam Bondi's desk.
We can't touch the guy until he's in public.
Unless, of course, you bust down the door and yell, "I have anxiety."
What?
Works for Pedro Pascal.
Well, something needs to happen. I have an online pickleball lesson this afternoon.
Yeah, we're just loitering. If I wanted to waste taxpayer money, I'd run for Congress.
Shh, wait. A car full of heavily tatted, shirtless men with firearms just pulled up. It's go time. Well, wait. Let's not jump to conclusions. According to CNN, it's probably just a Bible study.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to that Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's that Kevin Show. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us as we are delving into what sometimes is kind of referred to as like the lackluster part of summer. No. The president busy with policy, making headlines, doing deals, taking back the nation's capital, doing everything he can to make the world a safer, better place. And you've heard me in recent weeks when I've been talking about the issue of energy, referring to something called the AI
arms race. It's between China and the US, and it has to do with how much energy is being used to train AI models. And here to discuss with us is Dr. Oliver McPherson Smith, who has been part of this current Trump administration. He was the lead on the energy transition work from the campaign to the installment of the government, and he is now the lead at AFPI, America First Policy Institute. We love our people at AFPI because they always are thinking about how to put America first. But Oliver, it's good to have you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Kevin.
I've been talking about the disproportionate pursuit of AI capability that China has been unapologetically going after. They are launching, is my understanding, online a new coal plant almost at the rate of one every week in the year of 2025. A new coal plant online 2025, one a week. And they don't apologize for messing up the environment. They don't apologize for the pollution that that's causing. They don't apologize for anything. They know that they need every ounce of energy to supply this thing called AI that they can possibly produce. And so they don't have enough, so they're producing all of this other. The U.S. has about 8,000 terawatt hours less than China in terms of recent expansion, and we are falling behind on this. I'm curious as to a few things, but since you're the expert, I would rather you just lay it all out for us. How does this impact our national defense? How does this impact our domestic life in terms of what we're capable of doing here? And long-term, even the training of future generations in terms of learning and education. But I know that AI, there's not an app on my phone that doesn't have an AI tool with it now. And I understand that just training one of those models uses the same amount of electricity as like 100 homes for a whole year. So what's the story?
Yeah, Kevin, you're spot on. This AI, global AI arms race of sorts is the frontier of national defense, of the global economy. And as you outlined, China is building out its infrastructure, its energy generation capacity, its ability to transport energy at a rate that frankly, we haven't been able to catch up to until now. China's building out its coal capacity, its natural gas capacity, it's building huge hydro facilities, it's mining and refining critical minerals. And during the Biden years, we saw this happen. Unfortunately, someone was asleep at the wheel in the White House, shall we say, during those 4 years. But America's back now. We realize that we have to win this arms race. There's no two ways about it. It's the next generation of our fighting capacity, our national defense, that physical defense, but also our cyber capabilities. It's the next frontier for innovation and efficiency within our economy. And education, as you say, we need to integrate AI into everything we do, from schools right through colleges, right through the technology that folks use when they're working in the economy. That's why under this Trump administration, we've seen a huge focus. Just last month, the White House unveiled its AI blueprint, its roadmap to American AI dominance, where we will cement ourselves as the front runner here. But we have no option. We have to win this race.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it.
Well, and that means one thing in particular, and that is we need more energy production. And my group at OilFacts, we're in favor of all forms of energy being increased. We need to see an increase in production in nuclear. We need to see an increase in production, particularly of hydrocarbons, dense hydrocarbons. Dense hydrocarbons are the most efficient energy stockpile that we can use right now because we have had such a bad track record with nuclear in recent years. But I want you to dig a little deeper for us, because if we don't produce the energy, we don't have the artificial intelligence, the AI, to compete. What does that tangibly look like for us, even 24 months from now versus China?
Yeah, Kevin, it's like having a cell phone or a laptop or a computer without a battery. You need the power to fuel and to power this technology. That's what it looks like. You could have the best AI research, the best tools, or what have you, but if you can't power it, then it's useless. And that kind of brings us to the fundamental question of how do we power this technology? Do we use affordable, reliable energy that we can source here in the United States, the likes of coal, of nuclear, as you described, of natural gas? Or do we put all our eggs in an unreliable basket, the likes of wind and solar? It's like having a car that only runs when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining. You need to have backups. That makes it more expensive. Look, there might be a time and a place where wind could function, but it's not the baseload that we need to power this technology. And these data centers that are the machines that process AI, you need to be able to run them 24/7. It's a national defense fundamental capability. Imagine if we didn't have a military between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, and as AI is continually getting better at what it does, it's helping our national defense. It's helping our energy distribution grid in the country. It's helping helping kids learn. It's helping doctors diagnose disease. I mean, there's almost nothing that AI doesn't touch in some way that's tangible in terms of our lives. We may not individually use it as much as someone else right now, but that's changing. That's going to change. I'm already seeing ads on social media where people are like, if you think ChatGPT is just another form of Google, well, obviously there's some people that think that because they're now using it that way. But that's a very, very low bar, low minimum entry point for the way long-term AI is going to be used, and how it's not going to replace, I don't think it's going to replace workers. I think it's going to replace work. And we're going to be able to be more proficient workers because we have the ability to do some things better. Dr. Oliver McPherson Smith is with us, and he is the energy lead for America First Policy Institute. We take a break. When we come back, I want to ask you about the very specific production load of energy in America right now. I saw that horrific story of one of those windmill blades crossing across the Maryland interstate a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the front page picture of the blade that blew off the wind tunnel from the ocean, but it stopped traffic for hours on the major interstate there. We are told that solar and wind will do all of this. I kind of think it's like eating lettuce and trying to fuel the human body with it. It might work for a short period of time, but it's not going to be very efficient. So is it possible, this is my question when we return, is it possible for us to use hydrocarbons, dense ones, coal, fossil fuels, oil, liquid natural gas, even nuclear, in responsible ways that do not injure the environment? Because that has been what AOC and Bernie Sanders and all these people have been saying for years, that we're going to destroy the planet. What do you say to those people as compared to the need of why we need the energy? How do you control that? When we come right back, it's Kevin McCullough. So glad to have you with us. It's That Kevin Show. Welcome back. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. Yes, I am back from my world travels. More on that coming up on the show. We'll be telling you a little bit, give you a little insight, even a little peek of what we did. And it was a lot of fun. I'll tell you more about that. But first, Dr. Oliver McPherson Smith continues with me. We're talking about energy and the AI arms race. Now, some people, Oliver, may remember the nuclear arms race and how, Reagan basically had to threaten Russia within an inch of its life and say, if you proceed with this, we're just going to outpower you, outbuild you. There's nothing that you're going to do that we're going to be able to not overcome. And that eventually won the debate on nuclear weapons between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Is there a similar approach that we can take with China in terms of what we're calling the AI arms race?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Look, that is the classic peace through strength doctrine. It's something that this President Trump, is using. It's something that Reagan, as you mentioned, used. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if you look at just cast your mind back to what it was like under the Biden administration with Russia's doubling down of its invasion of Ukraine. We saw that start back under the Obama administration. That's what global weakness gets us. We know that President Xi of China is eyeing Taiwan closely. It would be absolute pandemonium on a global scale if that were to happen. President Trump's the peacemaker, and he's able to do that. Most recently, we saw last week between Azerbaijan and Armenia, a conflict that's been going on for decades since the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But President Trump is able to achieve that, and he has that authority on the global scale because of our economy, the strength of the American economy. He has that ability because of the strength of the American military. We saw that with the limited strikes on Iran and its nuclear program, and the way that it had threatened our closest ally in the Middle East, Israel.
Limited by our standard, but massively impactful in terms of how the enemy viewed it. Like, we wiped them out.
Exactly. We had the ability, we didn't have to send boots on the ground. We were able to strike them from the homeland, to protect the homeland, to make the world a better place. That's what prosperity and military strength enables. But to get there, we have to stay at the forefront of the global economy. And that brings us back to AI and this next generation of technology. How do we get there? Well, we need to power it. And it all starts at home. It's that strength at home, peace abroad.
Yeah. So I said before the break, you got a lot of people saying, well, if we just go Ballywonkus on fossil fuels and hydrocarbons, we're gonna pollute the world, and it's gonna make everything worse. And of course, the usual characters are all involved: Al Gore and AOC and Bernie and all the rest of them. They're out there preaching this fear. But isn't the truth that for over 100 years we've seen actually fossil fuels reduce massive amounts of death by climate causes? I mean, the number of people that don't freeze to death in the winter now, and the ones that don't die of heat stroke in the summer, all brought about because of essentially energy-dense hydrocarbon sources, has been something that's been a lifesaver, has it not?
Absolutely. And maybe, Kevin, you can tell us a little bit about your recent travels on the European continent. There's a statistic that was making the rounds in recent weeks that more Europeans die from heat waves than Americans from gun accidents. Right? The heat is an absolute killer, and it continues to be in ostensibly first world Europe, let alone the developing parts of the world. Fossil fuels and reliable energy. I want to stress reliable energy because it is fossil fuels, but it's also nuclear, for example, that has made that possible. And look, every form of energy has its trade-offs. That's the reality. There's no silver bullet in life, never has been, never will be. But when it comes to the environmental impacts of renewable energy, our friends on the left just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about the whales that die from offshore wind. They don't want to talk about the eagles, the beautiful national symbol of our country, that die from windmills. They don't want to talk about the critical minerals that are extracted by awful companies, Chinese companies on the African continent who use slave labor, and the impact that has not only on human society and humanity, but also the physical environment. Where's the discussion there on the left? You know, if they were honest about it, we could have a more sensible conversation with them. But until they do that, it falls to the Trump administration to measure up the costs and benefits of all of these different forms of energy. And I think that's why you saw, I believe it was the past 2 weeks, Secretary Burgum at the Interior Department take a very close look at the impact on birds, for example, from the wind industry. These are conversations we need to have to protect the environment. If that's the objective, which the left says it is, but they don't want to talk about these trade-offs.
I've never believed that they were actually telling the truth about that, though. That's the thing. I think they cry a good game, but at the end of the day, they just want the control.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
All right, welcome back, friends. I mentioned this at the top of the show.
I want to say, first of all, thank you. Many of you have stepped up and said, hey, Kev, we know what's going on by way of your human slavery project, and we want to help reduce slavery on the planet. So 60 women that at the start of the year did not have their freedom now have it because of the generosity of those of you that have helped liberate those 60 women. The thing is, the list that we have with the names of the women that are in process of being liberated is 148. So in the last half of this year, we're going to have to really pick up the pace, or we're going to need a couple of you to do something remarkably generous. And every year for the last few years, there's always been someone that's given a $10,000 gift or a $15,000 gift, just going above and beyond what anybody would have expected. And we don't want to come to take any of those for granted. So those of you that have been that generous in the past, thank you. But for the next few minutes, I just want you to be aware that my family is so personally committed to this issue that every slave liberated this weekend, we will match slave for slave, dollar for dollar. So if you give your gift right now and you give it at 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, if it's a $250 gift, if it's a $5,000 gift, we are going to, the McCulloughs are going to match that dollar for dollar this weekend if you will join the cause. Because we have 148 women whose lives are going to be ruined if we do not. These are 148 women that can taste freedom. It is almost on their doorstep. And to deny them that access when we have gone to the trouble of doing everything that we can to try to get them out, simply because we don't have the supplies to give them when they're liberated, it's not going to sit well. So I need you to help us with that. Now, here's how it works. For $250, one life is liberated out of slavery from northern Sudan being held by jihadist slaveholders. But we have people that are able to negotiate their release, and upon their release, they get to return to their home in South Sudan. That home where they were taken from, that home where they grew up, hopefully that home where they still have some family, and if they don't, we help find them a community of former slaves that they're able to share life with and create a new experience and a new family with out of that. But these are women who have seen the most detestable form of life in the last number of years. They've been ritualistically raped, assaulted, beaten, verbally abused, emotionally abused, physically abused, in every way possible that you can even begin to wrap your head around. And their prayer, their only prayer, is that God would allow them to go home, to start over again. And your $250 gift allows that. Here's what your $250 gift provides: a year's worth of seed for them to plant food for coming years, a year's worth of food to sustain them through that first year that they're back home. If it was nothing more than those two things, it would be an amazing gift for $250. But you continue to add to it by things like utensils to cook and clean and fish with, to garden with. You add to it things like feminine things that they may need that they've never had access to. They need things that they can cook with and help provide for. They need tarps and blankets and things to help protect them from weather. That's all included. And kind of the most special thing of all is they get a little she-goat that they can make a new life with, that they can have goat kids with, that they can create milk and cheese and sell food products and other things because they have it. Friends, it is all part of the $250 that you give when you give one in the name of one of these slaves that we are working on negotiating their freedom from. But our goal is 208. Only 60 have been spoken for. That means 148 are still not free. And I'm going to match every gift you give this weekend. Please call right now.
My name is Nanya Newt. I was about 15 years old when I was captured. My mom had spent the last few days teaching me all about what it meant to be a good wife and a mom, showing me how to cook and sew. She had hoped I would get married in the future. One day I was out collecting firewood, and that was when the Arabs found me and captured me and took me to Sudan without the chance to tell my family goodbye. It took me many days to walk the complete journey. They gave us boiled sorghum as we went, and the men that had been captured with us faced grave dangers. They were considered to be spies, and most of them were killed right in front of us. Upon arrival in the north, I was sold to a master in Miriam village, and then I was sold almost as quickly to another Arab in Magalagate. He made me work for his family, sweeping the compound and washing the dishes. They worked me long and terrible hours, pounding sorghum, fetching water. And then they said, in order to be a good Muslim woman, I would need to be circumcised. I was held down as it happened, and then I was forced to marry. Against my will, they forced me to work even when I was sick. If I did anything that made them angry, they would beat me. My master never bought me any clothes, never paid me for any of my work, and barely ever fed me. Then one day, I heard about a CSI retriever, and I ran to find them in the town. As it turned out, they were freeing slaves in my region, and they had not known about me. But I think God allowed me to find them because they brought me home. We walked that same journey back to South Sudan. And today I thank God because I am free. I thank the Arab retriever because he helped. I thank CSI and for those who gave. I cannot thank those of you who gave money to help us become free ever enough in all of my life. But I do hope that my prayer is answered, that we will not stop until they are all free.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show as we rounded out a pop and Christian music favorite, Michael W. Smith.
Too big to measure, too heavy to hold, too deep to fathom, too bright to behold. I wrestled with the angel, and the angel changed my name. Laid out at the river's edge, oh, I'll never be the same. I can't help but try and figure you out. I'm caught up in this wonder of who you are.
Michael W. Smith and Arms Around the Sun. Did you notice anything different in that setup with his band there? That was Jesus, Jonathan Rumi on the drums. Just a little more versatility from everybody involved. Kevin McCullough, hope you have a great week. If you missed us, get to thatkevinshow.com and get replays anytime, 24/7, or free. And we'll see you next time here at That Kevin Show.